Now let's explore some of the variations that you can use in a wrap session. Probably the most common is what we call wrap 1 and wrap 2. And this way you can actually split the wrap process into two related but discrete events. So wrap 1 we can cover things such as your slider, your O3, your benefits, your quality and your risk, for example. Very common. One of our major clients does it this way. And then you take the outputs from that wrap 1 and then give people a week or so to consider what comes out of that. Then you run your wrap 2, which is your strategy, your estimates, your work breakdowns, etc., and your costing. So that's a sort of concept of wrap 1, a small delay, maybe up to a week, and wrap 2. And one of our major clients at the moment currently does it that way. The other, an interesting version of wraps is what we call a mini wrap. So that's in effect what we've been covering throughout this whole Agile PM plugin series. You simply do an O3 wrap, or you do an estimating wrap, or you do a benefits wrap based on the O3. So you actually run one of the wrap sessions, but just on one of the wrap processes. This is a very elegant way. For example, you might see that there's some variations in estimates. So you get your team back together with some of the critical stakeholders and you redo the estimates. This happens by default in many cases in your agile delivery process, but it works equally well at things like risk, at scope, etc. So we often call these re-wraps as well as mini wraps. And that's a very powerful way of starting to get your feet a little bit wet in the whole concept of team-based planning process. Remember, any wrap must have the sponsor there. Any wrap session must have all the critical stakeholders here. It really intrigues me as a footnote on all of this that you'll have people say, what do you mean I've got to sit in a room for 3 days and plan a $60 million project? Just imagine if you just took that and looked at it clearly. You're going to spend 2 years building this thing. It's mission critical to the organization, and the sponsor or the critical stakeholders cannot put aside 3 days out of 2 years to actually make sure that this project's been analysed and planned properly. This sort of, I guess, penny pinching on planning leads me to one of my fundamental top 5 project management lessons. Most projects fail before they start, and a very common cause of that failure is not having the commitment and not having the buy-in from sponsors and critical stakeholders. It's a real test for you. If they can't give you a day to help you plan the project, you probably already know what you're walking into. Wrap sessions work, mini wrap sessions work, and what the Agile plugin tools will do is help you shape that conversation. So you're not just sitting in a room saying, what do you think we do? You say, here's the success slider tool. Why don't we talk about that? Here's the O3 tool. Why don't we talk about that? And what we found is having the tools structures and focuses the conversation around the critical components of a business case. I hope one day you get a chance to try a wrap session or a mini wrap session. They work and they're superior to any other planning technique.